understanding what exactly mean by software testing, and then we'll be moving to our main agenda of API and then API testing. Okay, so first, today's agenda, we used to get understand what exactly mean by software testing. As part of software testing, what exactly need to be done. And then we'll move into understanding what exactly mean by API. Like nowadays in the market, most of the time, the people has been discussing about API concept. So what exactly mean by that API? Why API concept has been came into the picture? First, we'll understand what exactly that API. And after that, we'll understand that how the API will be working. In this particular real-time industry, how exactly API is working. So how API will be working, that we'll understand on it. After that, we'll take care about this particular API types. We'll take care about API types. What are all different types of APIs are there? That will be understanding. And then we'll have overview of API testing. And then we'll have overview of API testing. So first we'll understand the basic information of software testing and what is API, how API is working, what are all different type of APIs, and overview of API testing. So after that, in future, I used to take care about the next session. I used to take multiple workshops here. In the next workshop, okay. So in the next workshop of API testing, in the next workshop of API testing, we'll understand in practical. We'll understand in practical how to perform manual testing and automation testing of API. So, I used to take divided into different workshops here. As today is the very first workshop, we used to get all the basics information. In the next workshop of our API testing, you will understand all the practical things like manual testing, what exactly mean by manual testing as part of API, and what is mean by automation testing of API, how to perform that particular manual testing, and how exactly we can go with automation testing. So that is what I'll be taking with the next practical workshop. But as part of today, just understand the very basic overview related to this API concept. Okay, right. Let's get started then. So the very first understanding, what exactly mean by the meaning of software testing. So the very simple understanding. See the heading. See the heading here. The heading itself, we can clearly understand that it is mentioning the software testing, right? So which is mentioning the software testing. According to IT industry, according to the IT industry, will have in two things, development and testing. Any IT industry, any IT companies, it's mandatory that they need to maintain development activities and they need to maintain testing activities. So if we consider the IT job roles also, these two are evergreen market. I mean, developer is mandatory. At the same time, tester is also mandatory. Because as a tester, we are taking care about in testing the application. Nothing but need to be taking care about in testing the software. So without performing with the testing, there is no chance of the project as being released into the market. At any cost, testing has been required, right? So that is what, if I'm taking with the software testing, in simple, we can say that doing comparison of expected result. This expected result we need to be compared with actual result. In a very simple way of understanding the meaning of software testing, we can say that in doing comparison of expected result with actual result. What is mean by expected result? See the terminology, guys. See the terminology. The terminology itself we can easily understand. Expected result. That means we are expecting some result. So what exactly the result you are expecting? That result you are expecting based on requirement document. The result you are expecting based on requirement document. From where you are getting these requirement document? From the client. The one who need the software, from the client, he will be getting the software. Requirements. Right? So first, client will explain all the requirements to that company, saying that, so IT company, this is what my business. Related to my business, I require these kind of the software. This is what exactly the requirement. So that is what you are saying, that expected result. So as a tester, we are expecting that, okay, application should be developed according to these requirements. So by that, what development will do? Development team will take care about developing the application according to that client requirements. Now, along with expected result, we got actual result. See the terminology, actual. Previously expected, you are expecting this is how it need to be done. Actual means it is done, the reality. You are able to see that. So this is need to be mentioned that based on application. So from where we will get this application? From where you are getting this application? Development team. Development team. Right? Now, the client has been provided requirement document. Development team has been provided application. So as a tester, I will take care about expected result and I'll take care about actual result. And then it will be doing comparison. That comparison only you are doing with. Very simple, guys. Testing job is the very simple and one of the very most easiest job. Because so here your major activity, you have to give the confirmation to the client saying that as client, this is what you expected. This is what development team has been given. So we tested according to your requirement document. As it is, the development team has been developed. So this is what the confirmation. So in simple, you guys can understand that testing team has been taking care about in giving with the confirmation. In saying that development team has been developed the application according to the client requirement. So that is what exactly the testing concept. So what is meant by software testing? Comparison of expected result with actual result. The meaning of expected result based on requirement document and the meaning of actual result based on application. As a tester, we are taking care about in doing the comparison of doing these things. If both are working fine, then we'll confirm that the application has been developed in the very correct way. If it is not done, we have to inform to the development team saying that, so development team, this is what the client expectation, but you done in the different way, which is not done in the correct way. So by that, the development team take care about in doing the required modifications. Right? I mean, so still if you want to understand in a very simple way, you can understand like the tester is the mediator. The tester is the mediator between the client and development team. Client is giving the requirement. Development team develop the application. We are the mediator in confirming the application has been developed in the correct way or not. So this particular testing nowadays in the market, we are having different type of testing. In a very starting days, like if I'm talking about the testing market before 15 years or 20 years, there is a concept of only manual manual testing. Like if we look into the market of before 15 years or 20 years, we used to heard about only manual testing. But slowly it has been increased. The testing market has been increased. The client expectations has been increased. So nowadays, you guys are able to heard about different types of testings here. So mainly it got divided into manual testing and then taking care about automation testing. Manual testing and taking care about automation testing. These two are main things here. Whatever the testing you are doing, you can take care about this manual testing and automation testing. Right? So this manual testing and automation testing can be implemented for any kind of testing. I mean, assume that we got functional testing. We got functional testing, functionality testing. That functional testing is nothing but functionality testing. Particular functionality working or not. Particular functionality working or not. As an example, I'm taking this application. If I done with the login, this functionality working or not. For example, I'll just click on the link. This is working or not. If I click on this link, working or not. If I just click on login, proper error message displayed or not. Right? So each and every functionality. So developer has been developing the application. According to that, as a tester, we are confirming that application has been developed or not. We are giving the confirmation. For giving the confirmation, we are going with different type of testing. In that one, we are taking functional testing. When you are doing the functional testing, we can do manual testing, we can do automation. In the same way, we got API testing. We got API testing. That API testing also, it can go with manual testing and it can go with automation testing. API testing also, we can go with manual testing and we can go with automation testing, right? This is the one who are all having some question marks. I will give enough time at the end of the session. Okay, so don't be worried about all your clarifications here. I'll give some enough time at the end of the session. So I'll clarify all your questions in case if you guys are totally new to the testing or want to understand about the testing, everything, all the information I'll clarify at the end of the session. I'll take questionnaire session. The last 10 to 15 minutes, I'll take the questionnaire session. So don't be worried about on it, but try to be very clear first what I'm trying to explain. Okay, right. So functional testing, we got manual and automation. API testing, we got manual and automation. At the same time, database testing. Database testing also, we got manual and automation. And then we got performance testing. Performance testing also, we got manual and automation. Right? So now, if we just look into that, any of these particular testing, we have to go with manual testing and automation testing. Now assume that you guys want to be work as a functional tester, then you need to be comfortable with manual testing, automation testing. You want to be comfortable with API tester or API testing, you need to take care about manual testing, automation testing. You need to be take care about database testing. Again, in database also, you need to go with manual, automation. Performance testing, again, manual, automation. Any kind of testing you want to perform, you need to take care about manual testing and automation testing. So now, our main agenda, API testing. As part of this particular workshop, our main agenda is API testing. That API testing practically, like in a project, according to the real time perspective. Now assume that you got in a testing job, you got in a project related to API testing. Then how to perform API testing of manual and how to perform API testing of automation. That is what my second workshop. Before going to the next workshop, as today is the very first session. First, I'll try to explain what is API, why API came into the picture, why we are getting the more market for API. That we'll understand. And then we'll have an overview of API testing. After that, we'll move on to practical. Okay. So in the today's session, try to get the more information in a very detailed of API and API testing. Okay, right. So now let's understand what is API. The very first thing, what is API? According to your understanding, like most of the time, you may guys heard about this API concept. According to your understanding, what is mean by API? You may heard about it, right? So according to your understandings, if I'm taking with API, what is API? According to your understanding, as part of your knowledge, as part of your understanding, what is API? You can try to respond in the chat window. Okay, what is that API? Right, exactly. See the understanding. A simple full form. I'm not talking about definition. I'll give the definition also. If I'm taking with the full form of API, mentioning the application, programming interface, application programming interface. If I'm taking with the API, the full form of API, application programming interface. It is like one application. That API is nothing but one of the application. Like in a market, you may heard about Java software, .NET software, Python software, like the programming languages. So if we just consider in this particular current market, you may heard about Java or taking with .NET, right? So which will be taking with .NET and then taking with Python, right? So all these particular things as softwares, these are all the softwares, right? Programming languages, which has been used to develop the software. If you want to develop the software, you are taking care about these things here. You got in a Java, you got in a .NET, you got in a Python, which has been used to develop in a software. Now, in the similar way in the market, we are having the concept of API also. We have a concept of API also. This API also one of the application, or you can consider that one of the software. Okay, we can consider that one of the software, or can consider that it is in a one program. It is in a one program which is used to connect two softwares. Did understanding? Don't be confused here. See why API came into the picture, like what exactly that API. We have in a Java, we have in a .NET, we have in a Python. The two softwares has been developed. When two softwares has been developed, for example, two softwares has been developed. When two softwares has been developed, the two softwares need to be get connected. To connect that particular two software, this API can be used. For example, in a best example, you have in a supermarket. For example, assume that you have in a supermarket. Related to the supermarket, one software has been developed by using Java. By using Java, one software has been developed to the respective supermarket. Now, that particular supermarket software means it has to go with the mainly billing. It's not like just only what is the stock is available, how many products completed, how many products are pending, in which store that product is available. It's not like only that particular part. Apart from that, the required the payment also. The required payment also. Now, see the understanding. Supermarket software is related to the individual requirement, because it's not like all the supermarkets has been required the same software. But nowadays, you guys may heard about the DMart. DMart, their own software, their own requirement. And you have any software of Ratnadeep. That is one supermarket. Now, the DMart, they required in a different software. And the Ratnadeep, they required in a different software. Even though business is same, the software they required in a different software. So it's developed in a different way. But payment is the common. Payment is the one common software. Now you can understand like in Java, the software has been developed. Software 1 and payment, which we got in a software 2. Two softwares are there. By using API, software 1 connected. The software 1 connected with software. The software 1 has been connected with software 2. So what is the software 1 which we are taking with their supermarket software? Right? So the supermarket software which has been developed in Java. The software 2 related to payment, which has been developed in Java. But supermarket software, you will get different type of software. Payment is the one common software. So because of that, these two things has been connected. These two things has been connected with one of the API. These two things has been connected with one of the API. So that is how in this current market, API concept has been came into the picture. To see the understanding, application programming interface. So by having certain programming of API, the small programming means not like how we will do the programming in Java and .NET. It's just a very small programming of API. We can connect two different softwares here. So that is what we will be taking with API concept. So the meaning of API, application programming interface, which is getting connected between two softwares. Still, if you guys want to be understand in a very regular example, the very common example, you guys can look into this particular diagram, very easily can understand. If you guys are very well knowing about the restaurant, if you guys has been very well knowing about with the restaurant, you can, most of the time you guys will visit the restaurant. If you visit the restaurant, you are the customer. You record in a food. But when you record in a food, it's not like you are directly going to the kitchen platform. And then it's not like you are ordering your food in the kitchen. You have a mediator. That is what I got in a waiter concept. Very easy understanding, guys. See what exactly the concept of API. So you got in a waiter. Now, as a customer, you are sitting on the table. Sorry. As a customer, you're sitting on the table. You're not moving to the kitchen. By sitting on the table, you got a waiter and then asking that what exactly your order. So waiter is taking the order. That means you are sending one request. That waiter, the same request will be giving in the kitchen platform. So in the kitchen platform, you have a chef, he will prepare all that, and then he will give the response to the waiter. He is not giving the chef, he is not giving the response to the customer. Chef is giving the response to the waiter, that waiter the same response giving to the customer. So that is what exactly the API concept. Very simple understanding, guys. Just you can understand this concept very easily, can look into that API. So you are sitting on the you are sitting on the table, you did not went to kitchen platform, you have not given order in the kitchen platform, but you are able to get all the things from the kitchen by taking the mediator of waiter. That is what exactly API. That is what exactly API. So now in this particular current market, this is how most of the softwares has been coming into the picture. So it's not like need to start all the things from the scratch, just trying to get connecting the different softwares with the help of API according to their requirement. So this is what our very first understanding what is an API. Now, if I just move on to the next level, how exactly the API is working? How exactly the API is working? Now, in a very simple way, how API is working? How API is working? This API is working if I'm taking with API. How API is working or how API works? In simple, two main terminology. One is client. Another one server. API is mainly working with two concepts. One is client, another one is server. So client will send with the request. Client will be sending with the request to the server, and server will give a response. This client is sending request. Client is sending request. Server, it will process that request. It will process the request, and then it will provide response. It will provide response. So client is sending the request, server is getting the response. That server will provide the response. So that is how API is working. So API is working mainly with the two terminologies. One is client and one is server. Best example, guys. The best example, you guys has been very well knowing about PhonePe. You guys has been very well knowing about PhonePe or taking with Google Pay. See the best understanding. You visit that supermarket, you will scan it, right? You will scan the scanner code. Then first your request is sending to bank because In the bank, your amount has to be there. Now assume that in your account, if the amount is not there, if the balance is not there, is it that request will be approved? Assume that you are doing the payment. When you're doing with the payment, first the request is sending to that particular bank server. From the bank server, it will be going to your respective bank account. It will look into the balance. Once balance is there, then that request has been approved. Then you will get a response. So that is what you are taking with the concept of client and server. That is what you will take with the concept of client and server. So how API is working? In simple, we can say that API is working with the concept of client and server. So the client is sending with the request. What you are sending with the request is a client, and what you are getting with the response is considering as a server. So based on this client and server, in this current market, we got a different type of APIs. I mean, for sending with the request and getting with the response, we are having different type of APIs are available. In that, one of the first API. So one of the first API, you can say that SOAP API. So what is the meaning of SOAP? Simple Object Access Protocol. Simple Object Access Protocol. So the SOAP API, we can say that Simple Object Access Protocol, which can be sending the information to the client and getting the response from the server in the format of XML. So that is how the people will talk about XML at the time of API concept. I mean, so when you're taking that particular request and server, request will be sending through that XML, response we are getting through XML. I mean, that SOAP API, which is working with the concept of SOAP, with the help of XML. The SOAP is very starting API. In the very starting days of our API came into the market, we got a SOAP API. Then slowly it has been converted. Into RPC, remote procedure call. This is with the help of function. That client and server. Request is sending, response is getting with the help of the respective function. With the help of that particular respective function, we are sending with the request and we are getting the response. So how API is working? Mainly two things here, client and server. In that, we got in a different type of API, SOAP API, RPC API, and the very most important one nowadays, we got in a market with web API, or we can call as a web socket API, which is working based on that particular JSON, JavaScript. The JSON, JavaScript object nation. Okay, mainly JavaScript. So this is one of the most API, the current market. So now the current trend, the current market is running on this web API. We have an SOAP API and we have an RPC also. We can understand like the first one, like SOAP API, very starting market. And after that, we got this particular RPC, remote procedure call. And after that, we got this particular WebSocket API. So mainly XML. That means whenever you are taking with this particular API concept, Mainly, you need to take care about with the two things here. One you will be taking with XML. So one you will be taking with XML. So the one part you will be taking with XML, which you will be taking with the XML and another one JSON. So the previous market into the XML, but now we got in a more market into the JSON format. So whenever we are getting with the response, whenever we are getting with the response from the server, so that particular response we are taking into JSON format. That you will understand what is mean by JSON format, that I'll take into the information. Okay. So now how API is working? This API is working having with the two main components here. One is client, another one server. Client is sending the request, server is getting the response. That response provided through XML or through JSON format. Okay, so this is what is meant by API and how API is working. Now, while taking this API, we are having different types of APIs are there. If I'm taking this particular API, we are having different type of APIs. Just I given the diagram how exactly API is working here. Okay, like developers will develop it, what we are already mentioned. And then that API is working as a mediator and then taking the response from the server and it will be giving. Okay. Now, what are all different type of APIs? We got different type of APIs are there. The one we can say that private API, public API, the partner API, and finally composite API. Right? Let's understand one by one what exactly mean by these particular APIs. The one we are having private API. The one we are having private API. So see the meaning, see the terminology. See the terminology itself. If we look into the terminology, here only can understand private API. So which is restricted to that particular organization, like internally, not like externally. So these private APIs which has been used internally related to that specific company and related to that specific business only. Not like into outside of that. So these private APIs are which has been used related to that particular internal one. So that is what I have been clearly mentioned. This private API is a software interface which will improve that particular organization. That particular organization only, not like for other company. So which has been used internally. That is what you will be taking with private API. But most of the time, you may have heard about like the common terminologies like local and non-local. Like if I'm taking the local, so sometimes the people will say that I'm the local person. That means that particular person is restricted to that particular area only, not like outside of that area. So in the same way, these particular private APIs also, which are restricted to that particular area only. And then you got public. Anyway, these public like open to anyone. Public APIs, the public APIs are open to anyone. So it's not like restricted to any one particular person or not like restricted to any one particular company. It's like totally open. So private APIs have gotten a restriction, but this particular public API, there is no restrictions at all. It which has been open to anyone that you will be taking with public API. And then we got partner APIs here. The partner API, see the meaning, like partner. Like for example, you guys are very well knowing about any kind of the business. Like individual person can be doing the business. The same business can be done by having some partners here. Individual business, individual person, private API. The combine of the group of people, only the group of people, not like all the people here, like 3 members or 4 members doing the partnership and doing the business. That is what will be taking with the partner API. That is what you will be taking with partner API. So private, particular person, partner, the group of persons. Like you'll have 2-3 companies will be there. They will communicate together, and then they will say that as part of our company's requirement, let's develop this API, and then using that particular API. And finally, you got taking care about, and taking with composite API. This is taking care about in combining the APIs. Similar to partner APIs, we can combine the two APIs. We can combine the two APIs and we can develop it. So that is what you are taking with composite API. So that is what just I have been given in the diagram to take with a very easy understanding. So types of API, public API, partner API, internal, composite. Public, open to anyone. Public is open to anyone. Partner, like group of people. Internal, that is what private. Internal API is nothing but private API. Internal API is nothing but private API. And then we got composite API, that is combination. So just if you look into this diagram very easily, most of the time in the interviews, you can expect these questions. What is mean by public API? What is mean by partner API? What is mean by internal API? And what is mean by composite API? So I mean, in case if you guys are trying to attend with the interview related to the API testing, you can expect with the question like what is mean by API, how exactly API is working, and then what are all different type of APIs. Right? So this is what exactly why API concept has been came into the picture and how API is working and what are the different type of APIs here. And then we need to move into API testing. So what exactly mean by API testing? That is what we have to understand. At the same time, we need to understand that how to perform manual for API and how to go with automation. Like what exactly mean by that particular API testing? What exactly mean by that API testing and how that API testing is coming into the picture and how that particular manual testing is done, automation testing is done. So that is what we have to discuss. So that I'll be taking the whole API testing. I'll take into the next session. So this session just I given only overview. This session just I given with the only overview of what exactly mean by API. The next session I'll take session 2. This is like in a session 1. I'll be taking with the session 2. So that session 2, you guys will be getting a very clear picture of what exactly mean by API testing. And as part of API testing, how we need to perform this manual testing and how we need to perform automation testing, that you will get in a very detail. Okay, so that part I'll be taking into the next session. So for now, if you guys are having any kind of specific clarifications, you can continue with your questions. I can clarify all your questions here. I can give the unmute option. I think I have been given unmute option also. If you guys are having any kind of the specific questions, you guys can carry on. Any sort of questions related to this particular testing. Or just you guys can ping in the chat window. You guys can just ping in the chat window related to your clarifications. And the same video, the same session you will get on the YouTube also. The same session you will be getting on the YouTube also. Soon it will be getting uploaded on the YouTube. So we can get on the YouTube also. Okay. Yeah. All right, guys.
Sir, I have one doubt, like you have mentioned, like functional testing, database testing, API testing,
Yeah.
and so why we go for API like SQL database testing? You said actual and expected only. No, we need to do testing.
Right. That
So
actual and expected, you need to do in the different ways. Like you will be taking with functional. As part of functional testing, what is actual, what is expected, you will test it. As part of API, again, what is expected, what is actual. As part of database, what is actual, what is expected. So why we require these many things? Why not just only one is enough? That is what your exact question. So that is what you need to understand in the next session. That is the reason I'm taking with the step by step, because that will take more time to explain. In simple, you can understand that functional testing with the respect of UI, GUI, graphical user interface, and this API, non-GUI. Without having the GUI, you are able to go with in doing the testing. And database, it's like purely database. Whether your data has been saved in the database or not, you have to do with the database testing. So that is how in this current market, we are having the different types of testings here. That is the reason in this current market, if you guys want to be getting a job, just by learning only one particular functional testing, you can't expect with the jobs in the current market, because the market strategies will be changing it. Step by step, the industry got changed. Previously, we got only manual testing, but now not like only manual, not like only functional. The interviewers has been expecting, the clients has been expecting other testings also. Okay.
Okay, sir. And
yeah,
I am a fresher. I attended one interview, sir, like for one company named so.
Mm-hmm.
So for manual testing only, I attended. There he asked like, does you aware of Spring Boot and API testing like that? What does
that is what basically Spring Boot is with the respective Java part, okay, which the application has been developed by using, and the API testing, which we have been discussed now. This is the API concept today I discussed. API testing, that is what the next session I'll be taking it. So that is what we'll be doing it. So how exactly that API testing need to be done, how to write the test cases. You need to explain them how exactly API testing will be done.
My doubt is like in API testing, does we have any concept of Spring Boot, or it's not part of
API testing is not like in a concept of Spring Boot is not the concept of API testing. That is in a Java concept.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah. The next session you will be getting, guys. When the next session will be planned, that I'll be informing it. Most of the time, you can cross-check our Naresh IT Facebook page. In the Naresh IT Facebook page or Naresh IT website, if you go to the Naresh IT website or Naresh IT Facebook page, you will get to know when exactly the next session will be planning it. Okay. So for now, the date is not decided, but soon you will be getting with the date when the next session will be planned. Okay. Right. All right, guys, please take care about the things. Thanks everyone for attending the session. Hope we'll meet you in the next session. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks everyone. Thank you.